Well, we've been covering since last Friday the second armed SWAT team raid on one of the few American companies engaged in fine craftsmanship, and that, of course, is Gibson guitar, that I know a lot of my friends and family dearly love, and their classic Les Pauls. And they've been raided a few years ago, won't tell them why, been raided again. And now they're learning it doesn't matter if they get the wood legally or lawfully. Now the police are saying, hey, we may start raiding musicians' homes. When you try to travel out of the country, it doesn't matter if it's a 50-year-old guitar. They're taking it, but not just Gibsons. Now they're talking about guns with the wood that's on them. If you can't prove that's not some endangered wood from a foreign country, it's gone. Your furniture. The whole police state system wants to expand. And you've seen the green police ads on TV where they're arresting folks for light bulbs. Actually, in Australia, they do home inspections and are talking about arresting people if you've got a crack in your window. This is the total takeover of society. And Henry Juskowitz is the CEO of Gibson. And here's one of their press releases. Gibson says wood is illegal if U.S. workers produce it. Continuing here, guitar frets, environmental enforcement leaves musicians in fear. I saw an Atlantic article where they had the headline, how do you turn musicians into tea partiers? Take their guitars. Gibson Guitar CEO raided by feds to cost company $2 to $3 million. Here's another one, breaking it down. CEO of Gibson Guitar, a Republican donor, Democrat competitor, uses same wood. Just like Obama's contributors are exempt from having to have the government-run health care, which is an unfair trade advantage. Just like General Electric's power plants are exempt from the new carbon taxes. Joining us again is the CEO, and I appreciate him coming on. Mr. Juskowitz, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, so much has happened. I saw your press conference, and it seems like you're really informed. You've got the floor. Tell us exactly what's happened.
Well, it was a normal day, and, you know, it started normally. We were producing guitars, and, you know, very early in the morning, we had something like 20 to 30 armed SWAT-like agents descend on 3 of our manufacturing plants and our corporate headquarters. They evacuated all the employees, several hundred people, respectively, into parking lots and streets, shut down the manufacturing facilities, started pouring through them, confiscating raw materials in the manufacturing facilities, paperwork, started grabbing some hard drives, copying, imaging hard drives, and generally shutting down our business.
Do you think that this could be political sabotage or espionage? Because it's been confirmed that General Motors franchises in Minnesota and other areas, when they nationalized General Motors, that people that weren't Democratic Party donors, that they had their franchise taken away and given to others. You heard me, sir, just mention the fact that 2,000 plus big companies that are donors have been given government health care waivers. We know General Motors has also gotten government bailout money. The same thing with General Electric. I mean, do you think that some of that could be at play here?
I really don't know. I'd hate to say anything without any you know, specific knowledge. But I will say that we are not the only company that is buying Indian rosewood and ebony, which is the issue here. Other competitor companies are indeed buying it and have not been in any way impacted, contacted, or otherwise harassed. So the fact that we are uniquely selected definitely makes me suspicious as to why that's the case.
Now, I noticed in your press conference, you talked about some of the acts that sign us on to basically Agenda 21 international law, and that under the Lacey Act and other things, that even if foreign countries change laws retroactively, now you're under that, and that specifically they don't like us buying wood from foreign countries and then working it.
Right. That's the real irony. I mean, we have an outstanding American labor force. We have been hiring people at the very depths of the economic problems. We have hired over 580 American workers, new jobs. We are very successful at exporting products. 60% of our product goes overseas. These are things that normally, countries get pretty excited about, and you're considered a pretty good guy and a good citizen when you cause that to happen. The fact is, the government's position is that it's not about the wood and illegal logging. It's about the labor content in the wood, and the government apparently prefers that labor content be outside the United States. Just kind of a bizarre thing.
Again, we're talking to the CEO of Gibson Guitar. Sir, even Congressman Dennis Kucinich on CNN last night pointed out that the head of the President's Economic Council, the former head of General Electric, is actually getting incentives to move General Electric's X-ray division out of the U.S. As I said, 3 of our factories were paid for with the bailout of General Motors to move them to Eastern Europe, China, and Brazil. So that is undoubtedly what's happening. The congressman has the headline here: Obama's job czar, expert at creating foreign jobs. Can you speak to that?
Well, all I can say is that this is costing us money. It's making us less competitive, and it will certainly impact, jobs here in the United States. And it's really making me question whether we're valued, in the U.S.
Well, don't let them win, sir. Don't let them run you out to China, because then you've got to go through one of the Chinese generals. And that's why the big cats, fat cats, did this deal decades ago with China. They admit it, where only select operations are allowed to move there. Certainly you could move to Mexico or somewhere else, but I think once you're in their sights, they're going to keep coming after you. I think it's up to the American people, if they want any industry or craftsmanship left in this country, to come to your aid. What can we do to help Gibson Guitar stay open and stay in the United States?
Well, we're hoping that people call their congressmen, their senators, their politicians, and let them know that this is not fair and not right, and to do whatever they can, not only to address the problem we have as Gibson, but I think this is a nationwide problem where we need to address this much broader than just our individual situation. This is happening with other companies in various areas where regulation is creeping in and being applied irrationally and hostilely. And I think that needs to be put an end to. I think we need to look at what is good for our nation, what is good for our people and our workers.
Sir, in 1984, a fictitious nightmare police state scenario, Winston doesn't know what he's being accused of. And of course, in the famous a novel that Kafka wrote, we get the term Kafkaesque because in the end, he's convicted of a crime and sentenced to death and doesn't even know why he was sentenced to death. And more, we're seeing that people are being sentenced and never even finding out. It's just they're told national security. And I know you were raided a few years ago. You've been raided again. And you can't even find out when you talk to them why you're being raided. I mean, in the Constitution, you have the ability to know what you're being charged with and to face your accuser.
That's right, and it's pretty bizarre to be in our predicament. Not much I can say except it's a nightmare.
We're talking to Henry Juskowitz, the CEO of Gibson Guitar. And, of course, you can go to Gibson.com and see all the latest press releases. Sir, I want to, instead of sitting here asking you questions, I'd like to give you the floor, because in the press conference I saw a lot of media there, but the audio wasn't too good on the YouTube version. So I'd like to give you the floor here, to really speak about what you think is most important. I would also like to ask you about the armed nature of it, how you were treated like you were criminals instead of working with our industry and saying, hey, you might do this a little bit better. But I noticed that with the vitamin industry, they tried that. And now the government's trying to shut them down. So, unfortunately, they don't want to work with you. And even if you try, they're going to come after you. These are parasites who could care less about our economy or our future. But you've got the floor, sir.
Well, I think you're a lot more eloquent than I am. And all I can say is that in fact, the government is using, drug enforcement, hostile techniques. We are just a guitar factory. We're a small business that's very successful. We're hiring people. We are competing successfully overseas and exporting. And we're talking about, an import and export paperwork issue that should not, be dealt with people with loaded guns and bulletproof vests, intimidation techniques. We've had hourly employees put into rooms with 5 or 6 armed people and interrogated without their attorney present. You're talking about really hostile action, and no one has come to us and said, fellas, here's the problem. We have an issue with this. Let's deal with it. Their first response was SWAT raids with guns, and they shut our business down. They injured us. It was an attack. And we have no recourse. There isn't even a judicial recourse. We are trying to fight this in court. And the government is trying to stay the judicial proceedings so that we can't even fight and get our day in court. So anyway, I think we are being treated unfairly, way disproportionate to any possible cause. I think that their ability to do that, really, we have to think about what that means for our democracy and for other people who could be put in this exact same situation. And so, I ask for reason, and I ask for fairness.
Well, you're not going to get that from the federal Gestapo anymore. They admit they want a post-industrial United States. That's what the whole green tyranny, carbon tax is about. Only their friends are going to be able to operate now in America. Al Gore has said it. They've all stated it. And this is their program. This is the mafia takeover of America. We're talking to Henry Juskowitz, the CEO of Gibson Guitar, a growing American company, 60% foreign. I know Gibson gets more and more popular. They have an entertainment office here in Austin. They're bucking the trend with American craftsmanship, just like Harley Davidson and others. And the system does not like this, and they harass every major American company that is left that's not an insider. But, sir, you brought up something that's the heart of the matter. We've seen raids on dairy farms that sell raw milk to Whole Foods and people legally, and raw milk cheese. And they do the same thing. They show up and say, we're going to say all your cows have mad cow and kill all of them unless you sign a form admitting you did something illegal. They just make it up. Or they show up to Amish and he literally put guns to their heads and scream and cuss and say, admit you're guilty. I mean, they're worse than Gestapo. I mean, the Gestapo were polite till they got you to a camp. The ATF had just resigned, caught shipping guns into Mexico, then blamed the Second Amendment here, caught perjuring himself. It turns out the White House ordered it. I think we've got to come to grips with these are really nasty people, or they're going to continue to have the moral high ground. But you mentioned that they got employees in there without their lawyers, and began these interrogations, that is unconstitutional. That is official oppression. That is illegal. And I hope that you look to get on the offensive with a civil suit against these people and that organizations come to your aid, sir.